Driving the Oregon coast starts in Astoria and terminates 340 miles later in Brookings. In this episode, we talk with a listener, and she shares with us all about her experiences on the Oregon coast. Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. My Family of Four's base camp is located in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and our RV adventures radiate out from there. Please grab a mug of coffee and join us as we discuss RVing around the American West. From sweet camping spots, gear and equipment, to tips and tricks, we've got you covered. We are RV Out West. On a road trip like this, you will pass through some of the most charming towns and see one of the most spectacular coastlines in America. The Oregon coast is a bucket list trip for so many people. The famous Haystack Rock in Cannon Beach is an icon and made famous in the movie The Goonies. From port towns, sand dunes, and dense forests, the Oregon coast has it all. Joining us today is a listener of the show, Portia. She shares with us about her experiences and her time that she has spent on the coast. So grab a pen and paper and be prepared to jot down some notes if you are planning a trip to the Oregon coast. Portia, thank you so much for joining us here on RV Out West.
Thanks for having me. I'm such a fan of your show.
I'm excited to talk to you too. And here I get a lot of, I've had some emails and requests specifically to do an episode on the Oregon coast. So I'm pretty excited to talk to you. So thank you.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to offer what I have.
Oh, that's great. That's all we can do. Well, I would like first, if you could share with us a bit about your RVing background, kind of how did you get into RVing?
So I had to start my life over at 50, which was unexpected, and I needed a change of scenery. And I already knew a couple of people who had RVs, and then I found an RV, and I sort of ran headlong into it.
Tell me, what do you mean by you ran headlong into it? Kind of just give me a brief, there's got to be a story there. What is the brief story?
I mean, it's not so much a story as an experience, right? Like it's a learning curve. RVs, if you've never, if I was never raised in them, some people grew up with RVs, right? I was never one of those people. And so it was a steep learning curve for me. I made a lot of mistakes. It's one of the reasons I love your show is you talk about all the foibles and mishaps and trip ups that can happen with RVing. And I've done all of them, and probably a few you haven't talked about. So that was basically how I got into it. I mostly, first and foremost, I needed a change of scenery, and it was either a land yacht or a water yacht, dealer's choice. So I chose land.
Okay. Well, I am absolutely ready to 100% dive right in to the Oregon coast. So kind of share with us, in your opinion, what makes the Oregon coast so special?
Okay. So I lived in Washington for 25 years. I grew up in California. And at neither end can you really drive along the coastline, but in Oregon you can. And so that's much of what makes it special, is that you can actually drive along the water. But also what makes it special is it's not desert, and it's not rainforest. It's a lot of in between. So there's sand dunes, and there's trees, and there's all kinds of rivers feeding into the ocean, and it really runs the gamut of the variety of geographical terrain that you can experience.
Well, in that same vein, then, that you appreciate about kind of the ecosystem there along the Oregon coast, what are some of your favorite activities to do in the area? What recommendations for things to see and do you have?
I can tell you that because of the headspace I was in, I didn't do a lot of them, but I saw a lot of things and identified a lot of things that I would like to do one day. I definitely enjoyed my fair share of sunsets sitting on the beach, and that's very unique to the West Coast. because that's, that's the right direction for the sunsets. On the East Coast, you get the sunrises, and on the West Coast, you get the sunsets. And there were dunes that I would love to go ATVing in someday.
Where are those dunes
There
again? Are they that's Newport or is it Lincoln? I think it's Lincoln City.
So Winchester Bay was my favorite spot that was directly adjacent to the dunes. So it had this super cool RV parking area it's clearly all man-made, but it's all these like jetties that extend out into the water, and it's all dry camping, and so it's super cheap. There's many spaces. It's almost never full, and it's super close to the dunes. You're like minutes away from the dunes that are just south of there. And basically every RV spot, parking spot that's there is you just back right up to the water. You're right alongside the water. That's your view out your window is the water. The view out from your bed is the water. It was super cool. So ATVing in the dunes is like a thing I would do. There's, all kinds of fishing and hiking and all these other things that one could experience. I didn't do any of. There's tons of touristy towns. The touristy towns are like awesome if what you want to do is be a tourist. I'm like way more into RVing on the cheap. Not paying for an RV space is ideal, but if I have to pay, like I'll take a dry spot or whatever. And the only thing I would caution about these super touristy towns is that street parking is absolutely not allowed. So like, don't even try.
I found that in Cannon Beach when we tried to go watch the sunset at Haystack Rock.
Yeah, I pulled over at a place, might have been Cannon Beach, might have been, like one of the adjacent tourist towns, whatever. And I pulled over literally just to eat lunch in my own RV. I just wanted to, enough time to scarf some food down, and I already got a knock on my door saying absolutely no parking. And I was considering walking out to the beach, but yeah, I just didn't even try. It's just it's so much a part of their income. I can understand it, but then there were, because I've traveled the entire country, there were other beaches I've been to all over the country where they have no problem with it. And so that's really kind of unique to the Oregon coast, is that they are really have a problem with.
Well, and the other thing I think is kind of unique to both kind of the Oregon coast and the Washington coast is there are certain spots where you are allowed to drive your vehicle on the beach.
Right onto the beach.
Right onto the beach.
It's amazing.
And you can go up and down the beach in your vehicle.
Yep.
People often get stuck. If they do, it is a very expensive tow.
It's a very expensive tow.
You gotta,
you're looking at least $1,000.
So you don't want to get too close to the water, and you don't want to get way up into the sand. So on the West Coast, it's really Oregon. You cannot do that in California. So it is only in Oregon and Washington, which is kind of fun.
Right. It's absolutely not allowed in California. I couldn't, and I have driven the entire California coast and never found a place where that could be done.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. If you were going, let's say, from Astoria, starting in Astoria and going south along the coast, where do you kind of turn away to get back to I-5?
Oh, there's a bunch of places. Now I have to look at a map, see. I don't have my glasses on. One is from Dune City. That'll get you to Eugene. I think another one is from Coos Bay. Another one is from, I believe, Tillamook, if I'm not mistaken, or real close to Tillamook. Newport is one of them. Lincoln City is another one. And one of them goes through, and then Tillamook is another one.
Yeah, but Tillamook's more kind of on the northern side. I mean, you're not far down, So I guess if you're looking for a short trip, you could do Astoria to Tillamook and then cut back over. And that would be...
But if you're looking for a way to cut back to I-5, those are going to be your... And those are also the most touristy places. So the most touristy places are going to be the hardest to find parking in.
Right. But if you're looking for a place to run into that tourist town, fuel up,
Yeah.
and then get out of town
Yeah.
to connect back to the interstate, those
Yeah.
are going to be your main kind of points
That's it.
to get you over
Yep.
there. Let's take a break and hear a word from our sponsor. RV Destinations Magazine is the premier provider of nationwide RV destination articles, sharing stories about the places you want to see for yourself. Subscribe today for digital or their new print magazine at rvdestinationmagazine.com. Well, we've talked a little bit about camping, but do you have any suggestions on places that people can camp when visiting the Oregon coast?
Long list of Oregon state parks that have RV camping that I've never been to. There's a long list of privately owned RV campgrounds that are available that I also have never been to. So I've mentioned the two that I liked the most, which was at Winchester Bay and the On the River Golf and RV Resort. I think what I liked really about the On the River Resort was that because my bedroom is at the back of my RV, and I have quite an overhang from my back wheels, and so when I backed up into the space, my bedroom was overhanging the river, and it was west facing, and so I got sunset right into my bedroom with a water view.
So cool.
And
So
it was
cool.
it was close enough to a town that I could order a pizza to be delivered. No joke.
Yep.
But far enough away from a town that I was
Quiet and peaceful.
I was out in the middle of nowhere.
Do you remember the name of that pizza
And
joint? I'm going to put you on the spot. I've had pizza delivered to the campsite too, and it's awesome when you can get a pizza delivered to the campsite.
Oh, and the thing is it's a chain pizza place it's specific to Oregon, and I can't think of the name of it.
Okay.
Man, I should have looked that up.
That's okay. You didn't need to. That's okay. I was putting you on the spot about the pizza joint, but
the proprietors of the RV resort will happily tell you this is who you can order pizza from, and it's good pizza too.
okay.
At least in my opinion, it's good pizza. Like the location itself was pretty close to, it's pretty close to Lake Oceanside, and you could just go, like, I went from my camper door and I walked right out and had to, kind of stumble down some haphazard rocky steps to the water and right into the water and just swim in the river, fish if that's what you like. It's a very, very calm part of the river. And I loved it. I just loved it.
Well, we talked a little bit about the pizza, so I want to kind of use that as a segue to talk about what are some of your favorite places that you liked to eat?
I really was all about being alone and not eating out. So I was doing, grocery shopping and then, meal prep in my own kitchen. What I enjoyed the most, and I love this about the West Coast, and after spending so much time on the East Coast, I still couldn't let go of it. I want to go sit and watch the sunset and have a cocktail in my hand and just, it was for me, like, I wish I could say it was about food. I wish I had more to offer, but I just don't.
Well, okay.
That's all I wanted.
You still haven't answered the question. I appreciate what you're saying.
I got nothing.
No, you do have something. So where was that one spot that whether you were sitting there and eating a sandwich, a PBJ, I don't care, but where was it that you were like, damn, this is a great place to eat?
I'm sorry. I like, and I'm such a foodie. I really am. I'm such a foodie.
That's why I thought this question was going to be a home run.
Oh, no, I know you did. I'll tell you what, there was one spot, but it was in California.
No, doesn't matter. I don't want to hear about it because we're talking the Oregon coast. Don't distract me. Did you at least find a nice cup of coffee somewhere? Did you get a good cup of coffee somewhere? Or were you French pressing it in the RV?
I was French pressing it in my RV. Yeah. There was this one spectacular dinner I had in California that was oceanfront view.
We're not going to talk about it though, because it's not on the Oregon coast. Doesn't matter. You'll have to tune in later. That's not where we're going. Okay, then. why don't you share with us one to a few of your greatest Oregon coast memories?
Okay. There was definitely one place, an overnight place that I stumbled upon, have never been able to find it again, either by Google or by Apple Maps, that was specifically a Christian RV resort, which I have nothing against. I'm not Christian. I have nothing against. And it was beachside, prime Oregon coast camping that I loved. So that was one. Another one is specifically for people who are driving down from, say, Washington, less so, from California, but like getting down into the Redwood Forest was an amazing experience. And maybe is not an RV friendly drive for a lot of people. For me, my RV is pretty small. My RV is only 27 feet long. For I think, some of these 40 and 50 footers, I would maybe not recommend it. But driving through the Redwood Forest um, it was, it was a lifelong dream of mine.
That's special. Well, and down
Yeah.
south on the Oregon coast, when you get down to where the Rogue River feeds into, I believe that's Gold
Yeah.
Beach, which is basically
Okay.
like
Yeah.
6 miles north of the California state line.
You're super close to
Yeah,
the California
it,
state
it's
line. Yeah.
it's an amazing little area. I mean, that's kind of the I would say Gold Beach is the southern terminus of kind of the Oregon coast.
Right. And then once you drive down into California, it's all up and down, left and right. At some point, like you kind of don't know which way is up, and it's an intense drive, and I wish I had been the passenger so that I could really enjoy the view more. Yeah,
Because really,
but
you don't even
yeah,
get to drive along the coast until you're really like south of San
well in
Francisco, well south. I mean, you're, you
right.
know,
You're either well into California or you're well into Oregon. There's a whole section that veers away from the coastline and up from, like, it's not just inland, it's also upland
right,
from the coastline.
right. I will share with you my absolute favorite state park, honestly, that I've been to in Washington or Oregon is on the Oregon coast. And it's called
Oh yeah.
Nehalem Bay State Park. And it is about 20 minutes south of Cannon Beach. So you're very close if you want to, if you do have a tote or a dinghy or your tow vehicle that you can leave the campground and go to Haystack Rock to watch the sunset and take in kind of the iconic. I mean, people see, if you Google Oregon coast, you're going to find Haystack Rock. That is that big rock. I believe it was the rock in Goonies that was at the end of the movie Goonies and whatever. But Nehalem Bay State Park, it's a pretty big park. It's got really, the way the campground's laid out is there's loops A, B, C, and then D, E, F. So it's two big loops, but there's like smaller circles within the big loop.
Right.
I always recommend you stay in either C or F
Okay.
because you'll be farthest away from the entrance. So anybody who needs to leave and go in and out, you're going to get less traffic, right? Because if you're in the A loop, everybody who is in B and C are going to have to drive through your loop to get to their campground or to get to their campsite. So if you're in
Yes.
C, you're in the back. And so you'll get less traffic and it'll be a little bit
Yeah.
quieter. So those are my two big tips. Loop C
Yeah.
or loop F. But you're
I
right there
always
by the
like
beach. And so
Yeah.
you can walk up and over the dune and you're on the beach. It's amazing. Do you happen to have, we're kind of winding down here, but do you have any last minute Oregon coast secrets that you want to share?
No, actually, I think we hit them all. Yeah. Like, yeah, no, I think we hit them all.
Okay.
And oh,
Yep.
actually, there
Go
is
for it.
there is one there's one thing I wanted to mention, which is that you know, I have a class C. I think I have a class C. I can never remember the difference. I have uh, access to my cab from the inside of my RV. So I believe that that's a class C RV. And so I don't have a separate vehicle. And I realized that my experience parking is in large part based on what can I walk to once I'm parked. Um, versus, if I'm not mistaken, you unhitch a vehicle and then you can go drive somewhere, right?
Correct. I
Like
have a tow
that's your,
vehicle. Like I have a pickup truck
yeah,
that tows my travel trailer. I have a bumper pull trailer. So
right,
yeah, I can unhook and tow or go.
right, right. So like specifically in Winchester Bay, for example, I really dug this cute little town that I could walk to that was all about not so much tourists as people who were into ATVing the dunes. And so there were quite a lot of locals there. And so it was like a different vibe. I'm not a tourist person. It's not my shtick. So I really liked that I could just walk over to the town from where I was at and didn't and if I wanted to rent an ATV from where I was at, and then they would just drive you out there and blah 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 and like so I think that um my input I think I just want to say that my input is very much based on not having a separate vehicle that I can go tool around in.
I now have one last question. For anybody who is considering going to the Oregon coast, maybe they've never been, maybe they went once as a kid and feel like they've seen it. What kind of advice or, do you have inspiration to share and with somebody like that?
Oh my goodness. I mean, like, I think it depends if you're rich or poor. It's like a totally different experience. But it's beautiful. And I like to stay off the beaten path. I like to meet the locals. I like to, so that, I think it depends. And if you're rich or poor, if you want to be a tourist or not, if you have a separate vehicle or not. Um, and I think that no matter who you are, because this is like there's no discrimination, right? Like no matter who you are, it's gorgeous wherever you go because it has everything to offer. Everything from absolute desolate sand dunes, like desert sand dunes, to redwood forests. So like I don't know that there's really any advice except that it's just gorgeous. It's gorgeous for everybody.
Portia, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and for coming on the show to talk with us about the Oregon coast. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you.
Oh my goodness. Thanks for having me. Seriously.
Please remember that RV Destinations Magazine is offering a discount code for RV Out West listeners. That's you. So just use code RV Out West 10 to receive 10% off a subscription. You can sign up on their website at rvdestinationmagazine.com. And it's a great way to show your support for the show. Thank you so much for listening. If you have an idea for a topic you'd like me to discuss, please contact me via rvoutwest.com. I would also encourage you to start using hashtag RVOutWest for your RV social media posts. Please share with our community about your camping and RV adventures that you've taken here in the Pacific Northwest. We'd love to see them. Our next full episode in 2 weeks, we chat with Peace Vans out of Seattle. As a former owner of 2 VW buses, they all have a very special place in my heart, and we get to chat with the owner and discuss camping in the Northwest, VW vans, and so much more. This is a great episode you won't want to miss. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again in 2 weeks with our next episode. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And I sure would appreciate if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.